Welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today we're going back in the day with one of our Halswell legends, that's right. He's also been very heavily involved with New Zealand Rugby League and, of course, Canterbury. It is the one and only Jeff Whittaker. How are you, man?
Oh, good, thanks, Dave. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's bloody brilliant to get you on. Now I've collected the set of Whittaker brothers. I'm quite pleased about that. It's taken us a while to get it over the line, but we're finally here. And, it's just great to get another Canterbury guy on who's done so much, in the region. And have you always lived here, and why do you love Canterbury so much?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Dave. Canterbury's just the best place in the world. You're only an hour from the snow, you're an hour from the water. You look across the road there in the new stadium, and hopefully all the work Frank's doing for us that we can get an NRL side in the South Island, and that would just be the icing on the cake for rugby league, and especially the South Island, Wellington down and that. Amazing.
Mate, that'd be unreal, eh? Honestly, I'll disown any other NRL team I've ever supported if we could get a South Island side. It would be a dream. It would absolutely be awesome.
Oh, yeah. And, mate, it'd be great for our kids. Our kids would stay here in Christchurch, and, the kids from the coast, all around the South Island. You'd get kids from Wellington, and it would be a big, big plus. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, man. So, Jeff Whittaker, what have you been up to in recent times? What's a typical day in the life of the one and only Jeff Whittaker? What do you do with yourself?
I'm into racehorses, so I train standardbreds, the trotters and the pacers.
Okay. And
my wife and daughter, they're into the show jumping side of it. So, basically, most days are all horses. My two sons, Josh and Luke. Lukey, he's a junior driver.
Okay.
And now just come out. He did a little bit of stint in North Island and then over in Aussie. So he's driven 100 winners. He's going good.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. So, and Josh, he's got into equine dentistry.
Okay.
And now he's just at Massey looking to be a vet. So
wow, full on.
And Steph's in Aussie at a show jumping place over there, which he's loving, and then you've got my oldest daughter, Cara. So everything's good, but it's all basically horses.
Yep.
We break them in, we breed them. So we've got mares and foals, and we've got the trotters, the pacers, and then we've got the mares that do the show jumping and all that sort of. So, mate, it's exciting. We've, got a bit of land, and so if we're not doing the horses, we're spraying or mowing lawns, or
okay.
It's good, mate. It's a good lifestyle.
Nice, man. Sounds very cool. Loving it. Right. Jeff Whittaker, it's time to turn back the clock. We're going all the way back to the beginning. So, obviously, you grew up in Christchurch, but what part did you grow up in, and what was life like for a young fella? What was it like for you?
Yeah, mate, I had a great life. Basically, born and bred. I was 1 year old when my dad was a builder, Merv, and Alice, my mum. We moved to Halswell.
Yes.
So that was 61. Dad built the house then, and they lived in it for 60 years.
Wow.
So I was 1 year old when I come to Halswell, and so it was a lot of farmland. And 60, Halswell was only just formed then. So, pretty well born and bred either Halswell or bought some land and were in Wigram. So, Halswell's been my life, yep.
Amazing, man. So 1965, you played footy for the first time, way back in 1965. So who did you play for, and how did the whole rugby league journey begin?
Well, with Halswell only having rugby league, basically. And Dad earlier on was rugby, and then when he went to the Harbour Board to work there, a lot of the boys there were Linwood League.
Okay.
And so he sort of got converted from the rugby to the league. And being in Halswell, that was the place, and so I was born and bred. All my mates and all that played for Halswell, and just up the road, and so Halswell was where we were at, and always, was earlier on.
Straight in there. So, when you played as a youngster, did you have positions back in your day, or you're all of that little group of guys just trying to huddle around the ball? What positions did you play as a young fella coming through?
Always in the halves.
Okay.
Yeah, usually a 6 or a 7, and enjoyed it. Loved the tackling side of it.
Yep.
Back earlier on, it was unlimited interchange, so you held onto the ball and you just kept playing with it. So it was pretty good times, really. So. Just loved rugby league, loved the physicality of it, and being able to run, it was, just great game. Love it.
It's funny because you're not, I'm 6 foot tall, and I've got a bit of height on you, but I find it interesting how smaller fellas, like say your Jeff Tuvies, yourself obviously, love the physicality. You know, there's some big boppers running around in rugby league, man. You know.
Yes, oh, definitely now. You know, I think more with the Polynesian side of it, the kids in that are, they're just athletes now, which is pretty cool for our game. And but yeah, just love rugby league. I'm just that passionate about it, like yourself and all us diehard rugby league people, you know.
Absolutely. So you made your first rep side as a 7-year-old. You picked for Canterbury. Basically played every year level right through the grades to the 19s. So who were some of the coaches that helped develop your game and mould you as a player as you rose up through the ranks?
Yeah, I suppose as a kid, mainly Dad.
Okay.
You know, he coached me mostly with club stuff and then also with a bit of rep football. Coming through 15s, Keith Roberts, the Kiwi, and I suppose being in the halves too was a big influence of me. And then I think later on, Lester Wilson, when he was first at come to Halswell, when first Premier side, and then Kevin Williams was outstanding. He was before his time really when he come in. So
Okay.
I was pretty lucky with the coaches that I learnt under.
And they were quite, I guess it was a different era of like people and style of rugby league, but it was always something that you enjoyed coming back to every week, putting your body on the line and getting amongst it with your mates.
Yeah, but at Halswell we were unbelievable. We had a big park and, all us kids that lived in Hinder Street or Cobra Street, they used to call it Snake's Gully, but
Okay.
mate, we had a park there and we had a great fellow across the road, Alf Agent, and he was right into his sport, and mate, we played hockey, we played cricket, we played rugby league, and mate, there'd be 40 or 50 kids down at the park like every night, and then Mum and Dad had a swimming pool, so mate, if we weren't at the park, there would be 9 or 10 of us boys swimming in the pool. So that was, I think, the difference between being fit and young and loving sport and staying out of trouble. Really was the things that we could do together as a group of young boys. Really. Yeah,
pretty good times, eh? I remember down the local park all the time as a kid with your schoolmates, playing cricket in the summer. That's just what you did on the weekends or after school, or down the park kicking goals, with my mate Greg every day after school. Yeah, that's awesome, man. They were the good times. It's good. So it didn't take you long to find your feet as a youngster. By the time you're 13, you made the South Island side. So how exciting is it? Picked for like a pretty big rep side as a young fella, and who did you play against back in those days?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. The 13s was on the coast, and as you know, on the coast it was wet. But yeah, we had some good football, and mate, there was Wellington and all that come down, and Otago, and so we had 4 or 5 games over the week, and we come out on top. We had some some good boys coming through in my age, so to make the South Island side was a start and sort of started to make you get hungrier.
Absolutely.
For better honours, really.
Yeah. So was that always like your goal to keep progressing up through the ranks and maybe like progress up to higher honours? Yeah,
it was always where I wanted to be then. I always wanted to be as good as I could be, and so that was a big start for me, really.
Okay, all right. So also, as we said, 13 years old, you crossed the border into enemy territory and played for Linwood, for a couple of seasons. So what was it like donning new colours, the green of Linwood after being a Halswell guy?
It wasn't that bad for me because with Dad playing for Linwood, like he played seniors back, and they had some good sides then because Ray Heffington and John Rosanowski and they had some they won grand finals back then, and I was the ball boy really, so I'd go down to Rugby League Park and I was amongst them at an early age, and while Dad was playing, I'd be sitting on the fence at Rugby League Park watching the big boys run round, so I just loved it. That was my Saturday afternoon. And so going to Linwood, and it was mainly over, Dad wanted to coach that side that year, and the committee, the junior committee at that stage, wanted someone else. And so Dad took 4 of us from Halswell and, 4 of my mates, and we went over there for a couple of years. And we won a competition at 14s. We had a good side the first year we just moulded and we won quite a few. But the 14s we won the grand final, and
Nice.
so that was that. But apart from Halswell, I was at Linwood. Most sad days with the club rooms and watching John Greengrass and all them play, and it was they were one of the strongest clubs.
Wow,
and they still are, but
they're up there still. They missed the grand final last year. Halswell put them out in the semi-final. Pretty good day for us.
Yeah, it was. But they're still, they're the benchmark. Linwood are the benchmark with the way they run the club and the kids and everyone coming through, and with Andrew Amatangi there and that. It's great to see a boy that's come through the system. Always been Linwood, but Canterbury and junior Kiwi and Bulls and everything, to see what he's doing and then also putting back into there is pretty amazing, really. So it's great. Yeah,
he's done a lot. With St Thomas as well the last 2 years, back-to-back national.
Mate. What they're doing there is pretty amazing for the game of league, and I take my hat off to Andrew. It's he's pretty passionate about his rugby league and where he's heading and what he wants to do. So it's great. Yeah,
we're gonna have to watch Linwood in 2025. I think they could be one of the teams to beat with him at the helm. Coaching them. Oh,
for sure. With him there, guiding them through there, and now Corey at Hornby. And even the likes of Riccarton are strong this year, and Aranui, Aranui going to be pretty hard too. And to see the West Coast, win a couple of games last season, and they'll just develop and grow from there. So the competition, if you didn't turn up each week, you got beat up really. So you got to have a good attitude, the whole 17. And the coach to compete in the competition at the moment. It's good. It's great for our game.
Good to see that growth happening. Let's keep more of that going. That's for sure. Yeah. So I believe this is also a year you played with the Hillmorton High School side before heading back to Halswell. So what happened there?
Yeah, mate, it was good. We had a PE teacher at Hillmorton called Bill Crome. Lovely man he was. He's passed away now, but he come over from Aussie and he made the New Zealand University side. Okay. And he was my PE teacher, and at that stage he was playing for varsities. They had a team, and he was just passionate being in Aussie and rugby league. He was just passionate, and he wanted to get rugby league in the schools. So even back then, at 1975, there wasn't league in the schools, and so between him and John Rosanowski, he was the PE teacher at Aranui High, right? And so John was at playing for Linwood and there, and they were good mates. Okay. And we were lucky at Hillmorton. We had our principal, Mr. Murdoch. He was into a sport. And between the two of them, they organised the first ever, basically, high school rugby league game at Hillmorton, where Hillmorton played Aranui. Okay. So that was good. So we were only 15 then. And there was a lot of kids there that were suburbs rugby. Okay. And also rugby league boys. So we decided that we wanted to actually form a team from our school. Right. And so Bill organised that, and we couldn't have it under Hillmorton High at that stage, so we went under as universities. Right. Okay. So basically they had a junior side of 15. They had one senior side at that stage that Bill played for, and then we formed this side, and we were basically all Hillmorton High School students. Right. And we had a year at that. We made the grand final that year. We got beaten by Hornby in the final, but to make the final was pretty amazing. But the job that Bill Crome and John Rosanowski did to, we were probably miles ahead. They were miles ahead of their time with trying to get rugby league into the high schools, really, and to have people behind them high up in the high schools to be able to to play the odd game of league at the school was pretty amazing then.
Yeah, it's like pioneers, really, isn't it? Like,
Was.
getting that through into the high schools. That's what we need, and and the net result is, we've got plenty of league going around in schools now. It's pretty cool.
So that was 1975 when that happened.
Far out. Far out. That's I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So were there any particular standout players through your era coming through as a teenager that you thought might go on to higher honours, or people you loved coming up against?
Yeah, I think Mike Williams, he was at Papanui then. Later on, he was only 19 and he made this Canterbury and the South Island side.
Okay.
He was a big, powerful centre, and, for him to make that South Island side that actually played Aussie and that when he was only 19 at that stage.
Crazy.
He was playing with Kiwis.
Yeah.
And so that's Kevin Williams' younger brother. So for me, he was one of the up-and-coming, players at that stage. He got a few injuries and that, but he was ahead of his time, really.
Okay, Wow, that sounds fantastic. So you were made the captain of Canterbury 15 side. So how special was it to be named as a captain? And did you enjoy the role? Did you like the responsibility?
Yeah, I loved it actually.
Yep.
No. And we were lucky, like Keith Roberts was our coach, and he'd been a Kiwi, and his knowledge of the game was outstanding, really. So with me being in the halves, he spent a lot of time with me, and we had a good side. Like we played in Christchurch, and we won that tournament.
Okay.
And there was Auckland. We beat Auckland, and there was sides. I think there was six or seven sides from throughout New Zealand that played in that tournament. But in the final, when we played Auckland, it was at Rugby League Park. Yeah. And it was an absolute bog. So you're talking back 75, we had the leather balls.
Yep.
And mate, I can still remember to this day, they'd kick the ball and it would hit the ground and it would stop. The ball was just that heavy and it was wet. And mate, well, we beat Auckland in the final 5-3. At that stage, tries were only 3 points.
Yep.
And we beat them 5-3, but we were down 3-2, and there wasn't that long to go.
Okay.
And we got a penalty. It was probably about 20-25 metres. It was right in front, but about 20-25 metres out in front. And mate, still to this day, even though he's passed away not long ago, but I can still hear my dad screaming out from the showgrounds there, take the two. Well, it was cold and it was wet. And at that stage, my best mate, who just lived up the road, Ivan Baird, was fullback. And he'd played 15s the year before, even as a 14-year-old. And so I went to him and I said, mate, we need to take the 2 points.
Yeah.
And he said to me, oh, mate, we were that cold and freezing. The leather ball was that wet. He said to me, mate, I don't think I can get it.
Great, thanks.
Holy shit. Everyone's screaming out from the stand. And then just at that stage, Brucey Cooper had come on. He'd come off the bench and he was our next goal kicker. And so I was talking to both of them and I said to Brucey, mate, we need to take the 2 points. At that stage, we were getting beat 3-2. And he'd only just come on, so he wasn't warmed up, and he didn't want to do it either. So I went, holy shit. So I said, well, we'll back ourselves.
Yep.
So, mate, we tapped it.
And your dad's losing it.
Mate, they were screaming. I can still hear them, mate. We were out in the middle of the field. They were up in the stand. And, well, you wouldn't believe it. The next set, we completed our set. Graham Tinning scored in the corner and we beat them 5-3.
Amazing.
So I think the decision, we won the game, but when it come to pick the South Island side after us winning the tournament, I was only reserve.
Okay.
After winning the tournament. So I don't know whether the decision we made as a group and me being captain made a difference between me not making the South Island team as far as starting in it and only coming off the bench or not. But hey, we won the tournament, and you know, we got 4 or 5 Kiwis in that, you know, in the schoolboy Kiwi side, and
amazing.
And you know, I went on to captain the rest side, and then we played the schoolboys, New Zealand schoolboy side, and they beat us. They had a good side, so but it was good. Yeah, no, enjoyed it.
Well, you went on to, you did say play for that side. So what's it like? That would have been your highest rep honour at that time, you know, making the rest side. So was that pretty cool experience though, taking on, you know, the best of your year level around the country?
Yeah, it was. I suppose at the end of the day, you know, my goal then was to make the New Zealand 15 side. I felt probably that, you know, I could have made it, but you know, they were the decisions of the selectors and the way it went. So
yeah,
hey, we copped it on the chin and kept going, and it probably made me more hungrier later on to do the next stage of where I got to.
Right. So so at only 18 years of age, after that you were selected to play for the Canterbury 19s. You went on a tour of Australia. So, you know, what's it like to fly over the ditch as a young fella back in those days and play 5 matches on the tour? And what are some of those memories that you've got from that awesome experience?
Yeah, it was amazing. In the halves, at that stage, I had Wayne's younger brother, Paul Wallace. So him and I were in the halves. And being the year younger, but we were lucky because we had the likes of David Perkins at that stage, like he was playing senior footy, Bernie Jordan, and Tony Stanley, Dave Campbell and that. So, mate, we had some basically premier players that were at Linwood or Kaipoil that, you know, were playing good football. And so to be playing with them and going over there was amazing, and it, you know, it was something that Canterbury Rugby League needed to keep doing. Yeah, like to take, you know, half an 18-year-old side and a 19-year-old side over there and playing, you know, in Sydney and around there and travel and all that was amazing. And you know, take your hat off to the board at that stage to spend the money and to go over there. And you know, a lot of those boys went on to play, you know, Premier football for their clubs and for Canterbury. And, you know, Perky went on to be a, you know, a Kiwi and, you know, coming through the grades levels and that sort of thing. So it was pretty amazing. It was great.
Pretty cool. Did you get up to any mischief over there? Bunch of young fellas on tour?
No, we were all sort of billeted together most of the time and that. And, hey, most of the boys were only thinking about playing footy at that stage. So, apart from some of the older boys, the ones that were a year older.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, 19 years old, you picked to play for South Island again, and so who did you play at this stage? And did you find the intensity of the footy was starting to increase as, you know, these boys are starting to grow into young men and grow into their bodies? Like, how did you see that change as you got older?
Yeah, the thing I found looking back now is we didn't have the knowledge of getting into the gym and getting stronger and watching what you eat and all that sort of thing. There wasn't a lot of that sort of education at that stage, that part of it. But we played Auckland and, mate, you wouldn't believe it coming through at that stage, and he was probably one of the gifted players coming through. Was Ron O'Regan.
Really? Oh,
so and mate, he just killed us. He didn't get out of second gear, and Auckland give us a wee bit of a touch up, but he just showed then how class he was, and I think that year, even at 19, he was like in the Auckland side, and on the verge of you know, making the Kiwis and all that. He just showed then. He
didn't muck around, eh?
Nah, he was.
And he was confident even at 19. He was like, I wasn't bothered about these old guys. I was just in there.
Yeah, he was just, mate. He just made us look second rate. He was just too classy, and you could see after that game, I thought, mate, I'm going to watch him.
Yep.
And even today, I sort of still keep an eye on him with the greyhounds and that.
Of course.
But he was just one of the gifted. At 19, I thought he was one of the best young kids coming through New Zealand Rugby League.
Most capped Auckland rep of all time.
Yeah.
I think it's 65 caps off the top of my head. It might be 1 or 2 games off, but it's in that sort of vicinity.
Yeah.
You know, when playing for a rep side, a Canterbury or provincial side's the word I want. When you play for a provincial side as our highest level, that's a pretty fair number.
Oh,
it's
for sure.
Unreal.
Yeah. Back then, he just showed then how much class he had. Just a freak he was as a footballer.
He's a good man, is Rod. Yeah, it's fantastic. So, 19 years old, you made up the step to Prems for Halswell Hornets. What's it like making that step up to the big time? You had giants like Mark Broadhurst running around for the competition. So, was that pretty scary as a 19-year-old finally making it up to Prems?
Yeah, it was. It was great. I suppose you got to take your head off to Canterbury Rugby League to, letting us come in at that stage. We were a young club. We're only 19, years old. The club itself was being formed in '60. So, and we were heading forward. Like, we had some good numbers in our juniors, and we had some good young teams coming through. So, I think it was great that they did look at bringing Halswell in, and I'm pretty proud to say that I was at 19. Alec Dawson and myself were the two youngest, both 19-year-olds. To be picked and play in the first ever, Premier side for Halswell. So
pretty awesome.
It was pretty amazing. Yeah, man. It was pretty amazing times, really.
That's so cool. Phil Prescott was in that side as well. That very first originals. Yeah,
we had some good young players. Probably the best one coming through. Pity, if he hadn't had some injuries, but David Baxter, he was a freak. We probably never saw the best of him as a 18, 19, 20-year-old. We did, see glimpses of how good he was, but he could have been anything really.
Okay.
He just, he was tough, and he could tackle, and he was a ball player. He had vision. I think coming out of Halswell at that stage, he was probably the best young player coming out. Okay. Really, yeah.
All right. So how did that first season go? Did you have much success? Did you get many wins over the board?
Yeah, we did. I think for us, the hardest part was playing week in, week out.
Yeah, I was going to ask
football. That. We didn't cope with it. We could compete. I felt the first 12 months we could compete for 40 minutes. Like, we gave our all for 40. But the mental side and the physical side of the game, we couldn't cope with, the pressure.
Okay.
We come out winning a couple, but I can remember one game. We went in at half time against Hornby, and mate, they had a great side then. And we come in at 10-all.
Yeah.
And we thought we were cat's pajamas, like we'd just given us our all for 40 minutes, and we were in the game against, basically the side.
Yeah.
And mate, after the next 40, I think they put on about 70 points on us.
Oh, my God.
We really got our arse tailed, but that was just what you had to learn, You had to, week in, week out, you just had to get bashed and had to keep getting up, because the physicality back then was far more than what it is now.
Like, you got bashed.
You got bashed. It was simple as that. And you had to learn to get up, get back up, so...
They were good times, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it was really.
I guess it's all about hardening up and adapting to 80 minutes of it. Like, it's like any sport, it's endurance. You need to have that, that constant grind till you eventually just adapt to playing longer minutes. It must be pretty tough.
Yeah, it was. We were lucky, like Lester Wilson had come over from Linwood, and he was a tough forward, and he really got us in the right mindset of where we had to be and what we had to do. And that first year we were at the bottom of the table, and we, I think we only won one, maybe two games.
Okay.
But he was leading try scorer in the Canterbury competition.
Really?
For Halswell,
That's amazing. I love that sort of stuff.
Every week he'd score a try for us, but he was just so tough, and because he'd come through Linwood in a good era.
Yeah.
And he was one of the best sort of 19-year-olds coming through, and they just had a great side there. And mate, for him to come over, he sort of helped the foundation of, where Halswell's come from, really. Lester did, and then from there, Kevin coming in was just built on that foundation, and the younger kids we had coming through, and then by that stage, we'd had, 3 or 4 years under our belts.
Yeah.
At getting bashed every week. So
exactly.
we got to the stage where we started to be able to cop it and take it, and then
give a bit back.
Give a wee bit back.
That's the one.
Yeah, so it was cool, but we were in a great era then. Like I think I was lucky in rugby league as far as playing the game and then administration and that after that. But for us to play every week, like later on, our best footballer we had was Banky, but every week we played against Kiwis.
That's crazy, eh?
And it was just amazing to see, 1 week, Hawes will be playing Hornby, and next week, Ross Taylor and Adrian Shelford and Wayne Wallace would be in the front row for the Kiwis, mate, and that was every week, like every team, Sydenham had David Fields and, Linwood, they had Lou Hudson and Wally, Wally Wilson was there and Papanui were just, Broady and all that were there, and Easton and, with Dickerson and, it was just amazing. Barry Atkins and, mate, they were just classy, good footballers that we had to line up against every week, mate.
Isn't that crazy? You wouldn't dream of that now, seeing Kiwis running around a provincial comp. You could understand, so say the 90s, you'd pull in a few guys from overseas to play a provincial rep game, but to have guys running around at just Premiership club levels, that's unbelievable. The Kiwis is playing in there. You wouldn't see it now. You just never dream of it.
Yeah. I loved, to be honest, I loved playing against Mark Broadhurst. He was just so tough and rugged. But he respected, like he gave us all, don't get me wrong, he never took it easy on you. But he, that's why you were proud to play Prems back then, when you had people that were such great players and people and still sort of respected you, and it was amazing times, really. Best times I ever had in rugby league.
Pretty cool, eh? So what was the build up like for the first final in 1984? You had that great era of 3 grand finals in a row, and how did that go, man? What was your mindset going into that first one?
I think for us, only being so early into Premier grade, it was a big buzz for us. Like, we were under Kevin then. We had a lot of boys that were basically born and bred Halswell kids that had come through the competition. So for Halswell, which was great. For me, the biggest thing I can remember is winning the last week to get through to the final. And then on the Tuesday, after work, I rocked up about 5:30 to come to training down there at Halswell. And I drove into the car park, and mate, there was about 200 people there.
Oh my God.
They all come, like all our loyal supporters had come down on the Tuesday to watch us train.
Crazy. Leading
that week up to, that week to going into the finals. So that was a big thing for us. And for me, basically to be able to thank our loyal supporters. We had some great people in our club at that stage, like Reg Wakefield. He was basically the man that got us going. We had a great committee, and Dad and that were there, and Rod Hickling, and we had some great people that were just super volunteers, and we're only where we are, now because of the hours and hours that they put in back then. So for us to be able to thank them a little bit, to be able to, get to a grand final, and to see all those people there. And the big thing I can remember is driving down Halswell Road and just seeing all these red, black and gold balloons, both sides of the road from Halswell down to the showgrounds, was probably, the amazing highlight that all our supporters had done all that, the morning leading up to us. And, hey, we got beat, we got outplayed, and they were just too good for us. And, mate, I was gutted after the game. I remember Aaron coming in. Yeah. I had my losing medal, and I basically threw it at him or gave it to him. I was gutted. I was absolutely, even though we'd gone, hey, we'd achieved more than we ever thought we'd achieve. It hurt, and it was gutting. And yeah. So I gave me losing medal to him.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah.
So what about the following year? Obviously, things went a lot better. 1985, you go into the grand final. What was the thought process this time? You're like, right, we want to get it over Hornby this time. We're definitely here for revenge. What was the game plan? Like, there must have been some sort of team game plan to take on this stunning Hornby side.
Oh yeah, well it was amazing because they had 5 Kiwis in there. With had Marty Creaker and
yes.
The front row and Barry Atkins, and at that stage we only had Banky.
Okay.
And we had some good young boys coming through with Bert Grew and even Robbie Rushton and like Phil was there, and we had Daryl Hawker, and we had a good bunch of boys who, mate, we loved playing for each other.
Yeah.
And probably one of the good things I think helped us that year was Kevin was a good mate, and Murray Lawson was coaching the Halswell soccer team.
Okay.
And they were winning their comp as well.
Right.
And so him and Kevin were good mates. And so on a Thursday night after we'd both train or whatever, we'd actually have a beer with them.
Yeah.
And so, that really formed, they supported us. We'd go and watch them play, and they'd come and watch us play. And that was, a big plus. A lot of us boys had all played together for a while, and we were still hurting from the year before, and then we knew what had to be done.
Okay.
Kevin knew what had to be done and that side of it. But I think the big difference, I know it was sounding a wee bit cocky, but going into the final, I was confident that we were going to win it.
Okay.
And what happened was the last week of the competition, we played Hornby and we beat them.
Okay.
Then the next week, because we both finished first and second, we played them again and we beat them again.
Okay.
And that gave us a week off. So basically, 2 weeks in a row, we'd beaten the top team.
Right.
And they had all their Kiwis and everything. And that had just sort of given us the confidence, not that, we were cocky or anything, but it just gave us a confidence that, hey, we can do it again, you know.
You can match these guys, yeah.
And, they'd thrown everything at us, and, they were a great side, don't get me wrong. Right across the board when you see the players they had, really, and even they even had Vaughan Lowe, they had some speed out and Johnny Griffiths was a 19-year-old Kiwi at that stage, and they were just right across the board. They were, but we played as a team. Like that year, we liked to have a beer together, and we had a few parties, and.
Yeah.
Poor old Jimmy Tennant's place in Barrington Street, they copped it most weekends where we'd always go there after we'd had a few beers at the club rooms, and we as a team we played for each other. We loved each other's company, and mate, to be honest, I think as a team we were confident that we could do it a third time.
Okay.
And that's from there, that's how it was. So. We went to that game again. It was a typical grand final.
Yeah.
Halswell Hornby was, even made it
absolutely.
harder.
Absolutely.
One side of Rugby League Park was all Hornby Panthers, and it was all black and white.
Yep.
And the other side was all red, black and gold. And coming into same thing again. Coming in from Halswell, the balloons were out and the whole scenario of it. So it was just... spectacle for going to be probably one of the biggest grand finals of all time, probably.
Pretty cool, eh?
Yeah.
You had Hummy on the wing.
Hummy was there.
Yep.
Yeah, no, Hummy, he went good for us, and yeah. So no, we had a good side, and Phil was captain, and mate, he was just at that stage. He was just a good premier footballer who was tough, and he just kept getting up. He'd get bashed every week and keep getting up, and played with injuries, and we just had boys that wanted to play for Halswell, mate. That was simply that was how we all did it for each other, and we did it for the club and all our supporters, really.
Yes, and so the match was on a knife edge. I think was it a few minutes to go. Barry Edkins levels the scores with a penalty goal. What's going through your mind? It's it's a drawn match at this stage. There's not much time left, and then Banky did what he did. 47-metre field goal, wobbly old bugger that goes over as the siren's going off, and Horse will get their first ever premiership. Isn't that unreal? For
the club and for all the supporters and the players and Kevin, it was amazing. Hey, I never saw any of that. I was in hospital after about 15 minutes. I'd broke my ankle, and I thought I'd only sprained it, to be honest. I think the adrenaline of playing in a grand final and everything, just the way I fell in the tackle, and I thought it was all right. So I was limping around a bit, and I got them to strap it up because I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
I thought I'll run it out. But after 15 minutes, it just got worse and worse, and I knew I'd done more damage. So basically they had to change their game plan, and we had to move the halves around, and so that was a big thing that Kevin had changed, and I was in an ambulance on the way to public hospital waiting for an operation. So I missed the hooter going and Banky doing it all the crowd and the old man and Aaron and everyone running onto the field, yahooing everybody. So yeah, I was getting ready to have an operation when Banky was doing the glory.
That's pretty bittersweet, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. To be part of it was amazing, really.
But you got the grand final. It still counts. You were on the field. You're definitely part of the whole season and that game. So you put that one down. But then, so how did it feel though? Like you mentioned, your family is a long-standing part of the Halswell club. How did it feel to be a part of that first Premiership side that won a grand final, and for all your family? What was that whole general feeling?
For me, it was great to be part of the club and knowing that you'd played premiers and won a grand final. That was the big thing. I think me personally, for the effort that Mum and Dad had put into the club, and all the ladies, we had a great bunch of ladies that, we had a lot of, at that stage, we needed to do a lot of fundraising, and the ladies behind the scenes, we had a lot of socials, and they used to, make the suppers and whatever they could do to make $1 and save $1 was amazing. So to be able to, in one way, thank them all for, the effort that they'd put in over that 25 years was probably the best thing I felt. And then, Aaron coming through at that stage, and I think for me, it showed, and the next kids coming through from Halswell, they could see that you could play for Halswell, you can play premiers, you can get through to a grand final, and you can win a grand final. So I think it helped the club to believe that, they didn't only deserve to be in premiers, that they deserved to be up there from then on. So I think, it helped the boys to believe in themselves that they could win it. They can win.
Okay.
And I think that's where that come from.
Brilliant, man. And just speaking of Aaron, what's it like to see your brother come through, won a whole bunch of finals in the Canterbury comp, but then go on to Illawarra and the UK and make the Kiwis? And as a brother, how special is that to see your sibling go through and, really like push himself?
Oh yeah, mate. I've been so proud of him, all his life really, and the achievements he's made, mate. It's just outstanding, and I think it's more his work ethic.
Yeah.
I don't think earlier on he was a good footballer, but I think his dedication to work and wanting to be the best that he could be, and like when he come along. He trained so hard. He was in the gym. I think he was the only one at the Warriors that Frank barred from the gym.
Yeah, that's true.
That sort of thing. he started watching what he ate and all that sort of thing. So, he deserved everything that he got, really, because the effort that he put in and where he wanted to be. So, as far as a family, we were that proud of him. It wasn't funny, really, and he deserves. You work hard, you deserve everything you get. So, it's pretty amazing, really.
Yeah, he's a good man too. Struck up a real good friendship with him. So it's just cool because it's like the second podcast I ever did. It's so cool to get the other half of the Whitakers on. It's last one for the year as well. Yeah. So good way to tie it all together. I'm very stoked about that.
Cool.
Right, so 1986, not quite plain sailing for Halswell. Made another final, but you sort of limped into the finals and then got kind of crushed by Frank Endacott's Panthers, the Hornby side in that last grand final you played in.
Yeah, mate, that day they were just too good for us, and Graham Larson scored 3 tries. He just sat out the back, like he just coming out a wee bit wider more than we thought he would. It wasn't really part of the game plan, to be honest, but hey, he just had an outstanding game, and they did their job better than what we did, and for him to score 3 tries in a grand final was outstanding, really. And hey, on the day they were the far better side, and they deserved to win. So that was where it was then. You've got to turn up and you've got to play football, and if you want to win, you've got to be at your best. And on that day they were better than we were.
Yeah, Frank Endacott was starting to really rise up the ranks as a coach too during that sort of time, and you had those Panthers humming.
Oh yeah, and they had some good young boys coming through at that stage too, as well. So they had a really good 17 and 19 sides that were coming through, and now they were developing into some really good footballers. So they had a lot of depth at that stage. So and some of us were just starting to get towards the end of it. We were getting 27, 28, and the physicality of the game was, back then was pretty hard.
So it was the next year that you did decide to hang up the boots. So what was the decision? Like, what was the reasons behind the decision to hang up the boots, and how did you cope with transitioning out of playing it into coaching? Yeah,
well, at that stage, Phil was then the head coach, Phil Prescott. So, I'd not only played with him, I played under him, and that year I was getting to the end of it. I was getting pretty busy with the horses side of it, and we were working big numbers, and so I probably wasn't as committed and as dedicated as what I should have been. We were working big hours, and then to try and fit the league in as well was a wee bit harder. And at that stage, Halswell was starting to get some really good halves there. Banky was still there. Brendan had come over. And then we had another young halfback who'd come through our 17s and 19s, and Gary Pluck. Is now Gary DeGrew. So I knew by that stage that we were in pretty good depths in the halves and whatnot, and I knew it was pretty well time for me to concentrate more on the football side of it. Phil had a talk to me, and when you've got those 3 there, and then Toots ended up, he played loose forward, and you still had Banky and Plucky there. There wasn't room for me anyway, So, and Phil and I he had a chat to me and said that I wouldn't be round finals time. But to his benefit, I played the next week after the grand final in the Thacker Shield, and so that was basically the last game that I played for Halswell, and we won the Thacker Shield. Nice. So hey, I sort of take my hat off to Phil to give me the opportunity of getting a run in that game, and knowing that was going to be the end of it, really. And I sort of started coaching as well, so it was where I wanted to head, really. So that was always the goal, is to transition into coaching and start it was like Halswell 10s and 11s and sort of that age group that you started with? Yeah, I went back and loved the grassroots side of it, and we had some good kids back then. They ended up being really good, like Brett Taylor and Shane Byers and all that. They were back in those days. So they were in that team that that I coached and was a part of. So, these young kids were starting to come through then and were good footballers back then. So,
okay,
right,
it was good. Yes, so I had a look at 1987 to 1991. You coached the Halswell 10s, 11s, 12s, 17s, and 19s. Every year you took a team to a grand final or won a final. You were always in there. So what was your secret to getting your teams up, like as a coach? And how did you get all that success with all those clubs?
A lot of it, there was some good young boys coming through, and so they could always play some footy, and it was more just giving them a bit of structure and then giving them the trust and also the confidence to get out there and play some footy. Yeah. I always liked, to being in the halves. I liked to throw the ball around and that sort of thing. So, that was a big part of, where I always sat. The physicality was always up front, but, for them to throw the ball around and have some fun and more, I think it was I wanted to make them better kids and better players, like off the field. Yeah. So I got as much satisfaction out of seeing them become, better people or that side of it really. And so they could set goals outside of just sport, that careers of what they wanted to do. And that was an area that I enjoyed as well. So that was pretty good.
All right. So that's awesome. So 1989, you had a taste of selecting and coaching the Canterbury 10 sides. But then 92 to 95, you selected and coached the 13s, 14s and 15s. So what was the differences to coaching and selecting a rep side versus a club side? Was it a different sort of scenario, or was there any differences at all?
A lot of difference. You had the best kids in Canterbury. Okay. At that stage there, Linwood had a great side coming through, and Robin Turner, he was probably one of the up and coming players, like 17s and 19s. He was a Kiwi in those grades and played Premier football for Linwood, so he knew a bit about it. And his oldest boy then was Glenn Turner. Okay. So everyone knows what Glenn did when he went on to play NRL, and his youngest son Marty was also a gifted footballer too. So Robin was a big part of Linwood. And then we had the likes of, Shane Byers and Brett Taylor and those boys at Halswell. So, mate, there were some good kids coming through that could play footy. Yeah. So it was more just giving them some structure and the same sort of thing. So I was pretty lucky with the kids that were coming through. They'd been well coached at all the grades, and there was good coaches back then too. Okay. So to have those sides. And, I thought at 15s, after having them for 2 or 3 years, and then it showed me a bit about the development side of the game, that I thought at 15s we had a good side that could go to the tournament. And, we had Graham Burns as our manager, and then Shirley Luke was there as well. Yes, and from, that side, I thought, mate, we're going to be competitive. Well, mate, the first game up there, we played Auckland. Oh. And you wouldn't believe it, the winger at that stage was Leslie Viacola.
You're kidding.
And, mate, he scored 5 tries against us. Mate, he was like...
He was a big boy, though.
He was basically a Jonah Lomo. Like, he was playing on the wing, and we had some good kids, but his physicality at 15 was scary. Yep. Like, our boys tried their heart out, and, mate, they gave it a good crack. But, mate, when you got someone like him, who only 2 or 3 years later was basically on the verge of playing NRL for Canberra and things like that.
He went on to the Kiwis.
Yeah, mate, we were in trouble. And it wasn't till later on I'm thinking, mate, we've got a side here that can compete and win. And, like, we're getting tailed. And but looking back now, that 15-year-old side... and that's when, once I got into the development stuff with Canterbury League and doing coaching development, I knew then at 15 we needed a 3-year program. Okay. And our kids in Canterbury were going to need 3 years at national tournaments to to be able to compete at that level. And from that side, we ended up, 8 of those boys went on to play junior Kiwis. So,
brilliant.
We had Shane Byers and Brett Taylor, Richard Foster. Linwood had, they had Jason Tiatia, Glenn Turner, Brodie Cordwell. And then I had 2 15-year-olds that come up, David Whittaker and Cole Rubin.
Not bad.
So,
Not bad.
And then the next year up from that, Bill Robb took them through to 18s, and, they had Tony Copolani and some boys there, Hayden Wilson and Corey Hale, and, mate, they had some, with the side that had 3 years at the tournaments, and the boys that Bill Robb had brought through, they ended up winning the 18s tournament, and they went on from there. So you knew it was just a matter of time before, and then what David Whittaker did, and then what Glenn Turner did, and then Shane going on to, he made the junior Kiwis 3 years in a row, and apart from Joe Vagana, he was the only player to do that sort of thing, and he played 100 matches for the Bulls. So,
yeah, incredible.
And should have played NRL for West Tigers if he hadn't got injured.
Okay,
so,
far out.
So we had some great young kids coming through, great attitudes, and Jason Tiatia, he was gifted. David Whittaker was unbelievable. Coming through, he was just so fantastic. Gifted. It was he had speed, he had everything, and he was a great kid.
Yeah,
they were all great kids off the field.
Okay,
and that's what. In the end, that's where is the difference, really. You've got to be better off the field than you are on it.
Right.
To go further.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So, 96, you started climbing the ranks. You coached the New Zealand 16 years team. You went on a 3-game tour of Australia, and you had David Whittaker, Wairangi Korpu, and David Whangalongo, and they all went on to have fantastic careers. So, what was that whole experience like, and coming home undefeated? Yeah,
well, we were lucky back then because Frank was he was head of high performance.
Okay.
And then after Frank was there, we had Gary Kimball. So we had some great people running the program for New Zealand Rugby League, and we had the national tournaments. So at that stage, they used to be at Hopu Hopu.
Yes.
Now it got to the stage when New Zealand Rugby League was humming at Hopu Hopu, we would have 3 sections of. There was 18 provinces there.
Wow.
So there was 3 sections, 6 teams in each comp. Well, and they were all billeted at Hopu Hopu up there. Right. They all had the barracks and everything. We had all the fields.
Yes.
Everything was out. It was just a great thing to be a part of. There was great people at New Zealand Rugby League. Kevin Bailey was there and Richard Bolton, and they basically facilitated it all, and they were amazing.
Yeah.
It was just a joy to be able to go to those tournaments and be part of it. And with doing the coaching for Canterbury, you got the bug about wanting to go further, and then wanting to then, that was when I wanted to coach New Zealand sides.
Right.
So that first year when I was the New Zealand 16s coach in 96, those boys had played 5 games in 5 days, and they got bashed every day.
Yeah. Then
the last day we picked a side, so we're only allowed to take 20 kids away.
Okay.
That was the hardest part. So basically, most of those kids that went over, that we picked the New Zealand side, had a hard week of football.
I bet.
We only had 3 days. We stayed at Hopu Hopu. We had 3 days in camp there.
Yeah.
And then we're on the plane to go over and play Penrith, Cronulla and Canberra Raiders.
Awesome.
So with only 20 kids, it was pretty hard. And so most of those kids ended up, showed how tough they were, that they could play. Mate, and that was physical football back then. They played the full 30, 35 minutes of football each day, and they had to get up and if they wanted to make the New Zealand side, they had to back up the next day, because if you didn't play each day, you probably weren't really looked at to make the side. So, yeah, it was a pretty amazing side. There was only one. I learnt a lot from that first of being the head selector and that trip, more because Auckland had a hooker
Yeah.
who was Henry Perenara.
Oh, wow.
And mate, he was a good kid at that stage, don't get me wrong. And he went good.
Yep.
He had all the skills. He could do everything. The only problem I had with only being able to take 20 players, at that stage he was like 6 foot something and he was playing hooker.
Okay.
Because Auckland had such a good side. And which made it even worse was in the final, Waikato beat Auckland on the last day.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it was the upset
Go
of the...
Waikato, you little
Yeah,
beauty.
and mate, Wairangi was outstanding.
Yes.
But, from picking that side, it made me just change a little bit about how I thought about the selection side of it.
Okay.
And after we'd named the side, Henry wasn't in it. And to his benefit, he come and had a chat to me after we'd named the side. And he basically just asked what he needed to improve on in his game to go further. And I thought, mate, I took my hat off to him, I thought, mate, you've got balls and you want to learn about the game. And so we sat down and had a chat in the office.
Yeah.
And he didn't really have to change anything.
Okay.
The only thing I suggested to him was he was never going to go higher as a hooker.
No, 6 foot tall hookers, you just don't get them.
No.
They're too big.
And I said to him, mate, I can see you playing back row.
Okay.
I said the skills that he had and the vision that he had, defensively was strong. I said to him, mate, you need to look at playing back row. Mm-hmm. I said, come back next year, train your ass off, come back next year. And I said, if you're looking at playing second row or loose forward, I said, mate, you're going to be roundabout.
Yep.
So looking back from that first decision, should have Henry gone as a hooker?
Yeah.
When we were only allowed to take 20? The answer was no.
Uh-huh.
But should I have picked him because of the ability that I knew he could play other positions?
Yeah.
Yes, he should have.
Okay.
So he missed out that year. But saying that, the hooker that I took away was Kyle Rubin.
Okay.
And Kyle was outstanding. That side that went away, the 20 players, probably 90% of them were either from Waikato, Wellington or Auckland.
Okay.
And we had an award, and it was the player of the tournament.
Yeah.
Now, so thinking, can a boy from Canterbury win that award?
Yeah.
He won it hands down.
Wow.
So it showed you the respect that Kyle earned through that tour.
Yeah.
From those Auckland and Waikato and Wellington boys, that the way he'd played, that he earned their respect, that he deserved.
Crazy.
So, yeah, and mate, you wouldn't believe it, the next year, both Kyle and Henry made that New Zealand side.
Yeah.
Year older, but Kyle made as a hooker and Henry made it in the back row.
Henry went on to have a great career. And,
NRL career and then refereeing.
Yeah, amazing.
Was as good as a referee.
It's amazing you were there right at the beginning of his journey. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was amazing to finally, to be able to sit down and have a chat with him. He went away, did his homework and next year come back. He was one of probably the best players at the tournament,
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
What a great story. I didn't know that. That's just so good. So, 97, you were coach of the New Zealand national 16 side, I believe. Shontaine Harpy was the captain. Another great player that came through, did great things. How amazing was it to see, these young kids and the ones we've already mentioned come through, go on to play for the Kiwis and know you played a part in their development and journey? Yeah,
mate, it's been really good. Even that side, the 16 side that travelled, my manager was Rex O'Hire, who's Lance's dad.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. And just from that trip, this showed me how with Wairangi.
Yeah.
He was my vice captain.
Okay.
And from that tour, if I'd ever had him in my team again, he would have been my captain.
Yep.
His leadership qualities, his mana. But you wouldn't believe it. He got hurt in the second game against Canberra.
Okay.
Cronulla. Cronulla, he got hurt. He split his bicep in half.
Ooh, rough.
And, mate, his whole arm was black and blue. And so we still had to go to play Canberra.
Okay.
And I said to Y, mate, you know, there's no way you can play. You know, look, the damage that you've done and everything. I said, mate, I can't play you.
Yeah.
And we had injuries. And no, he just turned around to me and said, I'm playing. And he said, I won't need to use that arm. He said, I'll be tackling with my other shoulder anyway.
God.
He said to me, I won't miss any tackles. And he said, you need to play me. He said, I need to play. Well, he played and he was outstanding. And then that last game, David was on the wing for us at that stage.
Okay.
So he moved from the wing up to the forwards.
Amazing.
We were getting beat by Canberra. Mm-hmm. We got a scrum 20 metres out from our own line, and he come off his wing and come in and took the first ball, busted the line, run the length of the field and scored under the post, and we ended up winning that game from that situation. But
nice.
that was just great. So, but mate, to see those kids, and the best thing about it was that national tournament. For those kids to be up there, you know, the friendships they got, you just bought into it and wanted to be a big part of it. And that's when those elite camps come after that. And, you know, the boys, you got the best 40 16-year-olds and you got the best 40 18-year-olds up there all at once and getting tested, and the whole scenario of it was pretty amazing.
It's pretty cool, man.
It was. Mate, I just loved it. And the people that were there, like Stokesy was there and Perky was up there, and, you know, the jobs that they all did. Len Reid was up there then, and he was amazing. Frank was there, and Gary, and you just had, it was just so professionally done, but everyone just got on and were there for the same reasons. It was rugby league and the whole part of it. So I was just lucky to be in such a good era with seeing all those kids coming through, and, you know, Stacey come through that lot.
Oh,
and,
wow.
You know, Lance, you know, Wairangi, all those boys, you know, like, and you knew that tournament and the elite camp worked because these kids just keep, every year they just keep coming. Yeah. You know, and you always knew it was going to be a success.
Brilliant, man. That's amazing. So 1998, you're head coach of New Zealand 18s, the year's academy side. They won the Oceania tournament. So what are your memories of this tournament? How satisfying was it to come home, you know, winning the Oceania tournament?
Yeah, that was amazing. That was at Hopu Hopu too. Yeah. So our side had to be under 18s. And I thought it was a good concept. The other sides who we played, which was Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, and the Cook Islands, they were allowed to be under 19, so they were a year older than our boys. Okay. But, you know, we got to, you know, pick the best kids, you know, from New Zealand, which was good. And so, but what happened from there, the rules always were the junior Kiwis got first right. Okay. Of the players, so they got picked for junior Kiwis, and then there was secondary schools, New Zealand secondary schools as well, and then there was also the 18s. So there was 3 teams getting picked that year, but we had a good side, and mate, we had Clinton Tupi in that side, and our own Ross Martin. He come through and he played in that side. He was great for me. He went good, and the player of the tournament was a boy called James Stoshak. And
did he play for Cronulla and the Titans?
Yep.
I knew that name.
Yeah, and he was amazing. He got player of the tournament. So the boys, you know, they had to play 4 games in 4 days.
Oh, really?
And So there was one wee story come from that tournament. We were playing one of the sides, I won't name who it was, but we were winning and we were going okay. But this side did put a bit of shit in.
Yep.
And it was before half time. And so my talk to my trainer at that stage was, talk to the boys, mate, just keep playing football. So for the next 10 minutes, our boys were getting clobbered.
Okay.
You know, like there was a fair bit of shit going in.
Yep.
And so I went over to Kevin Bailey. He was the match official, and I was mates with him, you know, and being part of the tournament.
Yep.
I said to Kevin, I said, mate, we're playing football here. I said, if this doesn't stop, I'm going to send a message out and I'm going to let the boys have a crack. Because I said, mate, they can't keep copping all this and keep playing football.
Yep.
So I said, I've warned you. So, mate, they kept playing football. It was about 5 minutes to go till half time.
Yep.
And the same thing was still going on. Our boys were getting thumped. Like there was head-high tackles and it wasn't good. So
let's do it.
So I said to my trainer, I said, mate, the boys have copped it enough. I said, they don't need to cop it anymore. I said, give them freelance. I said, for the next 5 minutes, I said, play clean, but be as physical as you like, physicality-wise. I said, mate, I don't want any high shots or anything like that. But I says, mate, up the tempo and actually have a crack.
Yeah.
So, mate, they loved me hearing that. So, mate, for the next 5 minutes, they just got in and they really ripped into it.
Yeah.
And so, mate, they really put their hand up. Well, mate, the other side didn't come out after half time.
Really?
No, they wouldn't come back out.
They actually like threw the towel in.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, what did you do to them?
Mate, the boys just, they were good.
That's
good
awesome.
Bunch of kids.
Wow.
So, and in the final, we played Cook Islands. And Clinton Tupy scored 3 tries.
He was a freak,
he was playing second row then for me.
Really?
And, mate, I think the whole 3 tries he scored from inside our half. Like, just beating players. I knew then, I thought, mate, you're going to go places.
He had the best footwork. His footwork was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he took the ball, like, probably 30 metres out from our line. And I think he went through like 4 or 5 tackles and like never even got touched.
Yeah.
And boom, boom, and then the last 40 metres he had speed as well, and he ran the last 40 and then scored under the post. But he scored 3 tries in the final and he killed them by himself.
I remember year 2000, the Warriors were just stretched for players, and they brought him in as an absolute nobody. Never heard of him. He ripped up in like just the 3 games or so he played. Then 2001, the Warriors rebranded as the New Zealand Warriors. And they were down something like 30 to 12 or something against the Northern Eagles. And then he scored this most unbelievable individual try, just shimmied left, right, and then step off his right, through the line, fends the ball, sprints 50 metres to score. Warriors come back with 32-30. One of the great games, one of the great tries. And he was only like, that was his first proper year in the NRL, but just scored a blinder of a try. Like, he was a freak, man.
He was, mate. Even back, as a kid, he could play footy.
Yeah.
Mate. He could play.
Yeah. Didn't like his offload in the 10 metre zone though. When we're to defend 4 sets in a row or something. And he's like, good idea to try and offload on our own 10 metre line. Drop the ball.
Yeah.
There's plenty of those. What a cool player.
Yeah.
Oh, good times. Right, year 2000, you coached New Zealand secondary schools team, went on tour of Australia. So was this a side picked from all the regions in New Zealand? And how fun is it trying to keep a bunch of boys under control in Australia? Yeah,
it was good. A lot of these boys were, because of the secondary school comp, there was a lot of rugby boys starting to come in.
Right.
So, so a lot of the boys weren't all diehard rugby league boys. There was a few, rugby boys. So when we got over there, the level of football probably wasn't the standard that should have been what it's like today with, St Thomas's and what St Paul's and all them are doing. So we still had a good side. Mate, it was amazing. We went to Kingaroy and played a Queensland, basically a state side.
Okay.
Matty Ballin.
Ballin.
Yeah, his dad was the principal at Kingaroy High School.
Right.
And so they picked a side to play. We played them at Kingaroy High School on a Wednesday night, which was good for us because we're talking August, September then. It was in the school holidays, the last lot of school holidays. So, mate, it was hot and up there.
Oh, that's right.
So to play them on the Wednesday night at Kingaroy High School was amazing. So in that side they picked to play us, and mate, we put 50 points on them. I think we beat them 54-24 or something like that.
Okay.
But in that side that played that day, well, Matty Ballin was there. So he, at that stage, he was signed with the Broncos, but then he went on to Manly.
Yeah.
Cameron Smith was there.
Wow.
Jonathan Thurston was there.
Stop it.
Willie Tonga.
Wow.
Michael Witt was on the bench.
Yeah,
So
that's a good list of players, man.
Yeah, there was like
Oh my
5
God.
players that played in that game that went on to play State of Origin or represented Aussie. And you know, to our credit, you know, we touched them up.
Yep.
We wouldn't touch them up now, but
No.
yeah, that day. So, mate, that was amazing. David Bellham was outstanding. The Kingaroy High School, they were amazing. They just spoiled us and looked after us, and you know, we were friends with Matty and that from then on.
Yeah.
So, you know, from that trip, Kingaroy High School then come to. For the next 3 or 4 years, they come over to Christchurch and stayed with us. So we billeted Matty while he was still at high school there, and they bought their league side, they bought their netball girls, and they bought their school band over.
Amazing.
And so they did the South Island. So they come to Christchurch, they went down to Dunedin and did a lot of culture stuff and all that around. And so yeah, Matty and his fella David, they were magic to us.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 tests against Australian secondary schools, and that Australian secondary school side, you know, in the past, names have just come left, right, and centre out of Australian secondary school side. I think we got set up a bit because we played 2 tests against them, and they were at 3:00 in the afternoon. So, mate, it was like 35 to 40 degrees for our boys that weren't used to it. And I knew we were in trouble because the day before I said we trained and we had a captain's run.
Yeah.
And we said, well, we'll have it at the same time as the game, just so they can
get the idea of it.
Yeah. So, and we were only going to train for basically do a warm up, train the captain's run, and then finish. Well, mate, it was that hot. We started having kids, and we'd only been out there after the warm up. I think we hadn't even done 15 minutes or 20 minutes, 20 minutes max. I think we'd done. And mate, we had kids starting to get bleeding noses because it was just so hot. And I thought,
God.
So we stopped the training, and we took them for a swim, and just, you know, I thought, mate, we're going to be in trouble because we're playing tomorrow at this stage. But to the boys' credit, both test matches were at 3:00. At half time or just after half time, both games we were in front.
Okay.
But the last 15 minutes,
fade out.
And both games it was that hot. It wasn't, mate. We were sweating just on the sideline, the coaching staff, without the poor kids, and so hey, they went good, and you know, we got touched up in both games in the end. But saying that, it was a great experience, and to meet David Bellham and you know, be involved with those kids that went on with it was pretty amazing. So that was good.
Pretty amazing. The list of names you said, and Matt Bellham went on to play Origin.
Yep.
Michael Witt was a mainstay in the halves at the Warriors, probably through one of their most successful prolonged periods, under Ivan Cleary, and fine
Willie
player.
Tonga.
Yeah, Willie Tonga.
You know,
he played for Australia, Queensland.
He
did it all.
Everyone knows what Cameron and
they don't need
Jonathan,
mentioning. They're incredible. Incredible
so
players.
It was amazing. I think Cameron scored a try in that game against us on the Wednesday night, and that.
Amazing.
So, Yeah.
Very cool. So let's have a bit of a chat about your involvement with Canterbury Rugby League. You were assistant coach for Canterbury A, and the year 2000 you were a selector for the Canterbury Bulls side, which won the inaugural Barcard Cup. So and also 2003. So how incredible was it to be a part of that whole Bulls setup and seeing so much success come out of the Bulls?
Yeah, for me, I got a lot of pleasure out of it because at that stage from 96 through to 2003, I was coaching development manager at Canterbury League, and mate, I loved every minute of that part of it. Basically, Stokesy was on board at that stage as his head coach. So we got together and the Bulls basically 1999.
Yeah.
Because we knew that the next year they were going to be in a full-time comp.
Yep.
We knew we weren't going to be a big side.
Yeah.
So the physicality of taking on Auckland and the week in, week out stuff was something we needed to look at. So we thought the only way that we could match it with them is if we were as strong as them.
Okay.
So in 1999, we were at Rugby League Park there. We had our offices. Mate, I was lucky with Rugby League Park because playing there, and then, we had our offices there. We had the 2 fields.
Yep.
We had room under number 2 field there, so that was all amazing. But we had no gear.
Okay.
We had no gym gear, and we knew the only way we can compete is if we had gym gear. So, to be honest, there was a gymnasium that where we could get some gym gear that had gone bust, and there was a whole lot of gym gear for free in down at Morehouse Ave.
Oh, good deal.
But the only problem was Canterbury Rugby League, we didn't have the budget or the money to pay the $4,000 to get the start of our gym going.
Okay.
So to our benefit, Graham Burns and myself put up $2,000 each.
Really?
To buy the gear to put under number 2 stand to get us going to start off with till Canterbury could afford to pay us back. So thanks to Graham Burns or GB at that stage, we got the gym gear that we could. And then also I was lucky enough, I was good friends with Norm Withers, and at that stage he was deputy mayor, and he had there was some gym gear also that he knew that we could get, so we managed to get some gear through the council.
Amazing.
And they basically that was the start of the gym. And then we got some grants for some bikes and some rowers and different gear, and then by the end of 1999 we had a pretty good gym and it was good because we could train there, the officers were there, Stokesy was there, and we had the 2 fields. So our 16s and our 18s that were also part of the Bulls comp that were going to the national tournaments, they could train there. They used the gym.
Yep.
And so that was the big part of it. And so that was when Stokesy was head coach, and I said to him, well, we need a pathway for our coaches. And so that was when I made the phone call to Phil Prescott to see if he'd come on board and be assistant.
Yep.
With the way we looked at it was, hey, you did your time and worked under Stokesy, that when Stokesy was looking at finishing or going somewhere else or whatever, Phil would take over as the head coach. So we give Phil a taste of being assistant coach, knowing what it had to be like, going away to all the games, and then getting a taste of what you needed to do to to do that side of it. So Phil thought about it and then said that he would come on board, and so that was probably the stepping stone for Phil to get that, because I'd already been under him. I knew how good a coach he was back at Halswell, and that was probably the stepping stone for him to take over when Stokesy went up to Wellington, and the same sort of thing was, I said to Phil, well, hey, you need someone underneath you that we can look at that. And I said, well, who do you want and who are we going to target? And that was Brent Stewart.
Yeah.
And Perky was there. David Perkins was there with him as well. So I knew when I left in 2003, we still had a real good structure.
Yep.
That the next coach coming in knew what it was all about, knew what he had to do, knew the players he had, because some years, we sometimes lost 15 players from whether they retired or some of them got NRL contracts, some went over and played country league, and so there was all different reasons why we lost. And I think too, because the program was so good.
Yeah.
We had good coaches. They were getting week in, week out. Good football. We had a program that was working. So then we knew that if we're going to have that many players that we're going to lose, that we had basically a Canterbury B side coming through, and those boys then knew that that the next year they put the work in and they trained that they were going to be in the Bulls the next year. So it gave them incentive on top of our 16s and 18s that were coming through with the Andrew Amatangis and those sort of boys, mate. So we knew the program worked because that first year we weren't expecting it, but hey, we got the chocolates that year, and then we had to develop a bit the next couple of years, and then when Phil come on board, he knew what needed to be done and the players that he needed, and we had a wee bit of depth there from the players coming through that he could do the job, and then so did Brent.
Yeah.
So it was pretty. We knew it worked because we were getting the results.
Absolutely.
So
a couple of championships.
That's what I was confident about.
Pretty awesome, mate.
Yeah.
Pretty good to beat Auckland, eh? They've got all the players in the world to pick from.
Yeah.
And little old Canterbury just turn up and win.
It was amazing. It was amazing for rugby league and for the players down here, and the opportunity. A lot of boys got an opportunity to go higher because of that week in, week out comp, and that we needed,
Yeah, we need it back. We need to got that back now.
Yeah. It's probably made it hard for our competition now.
Yeah.
And we're losing our good kids now at 18, if not younger, 17. Some boys are going at 16 now because there's not, apart from the Warriors, there's no pathway, and that's why. We need a side here in the South Island. Simple as that.
100%, man. 100%. So, you actually coached the South Island side against the French. You had a really sensational side, actually. Like some names like Shane Byers, you mentioned, Scott Nixon, Johnny Limmer, Ray Hubbard, your brother Aaron Whittaker. You had Bertie Milne as team manager. How did you go against the French? And what was that whole experience like?
Yeah, well, mate, to be honest, I felt we should have beaten them. We lost by a try in the end. The boys went great. I think Aaron scored a try in that game, so that was good. We had some young boys in it. Dallas Rennie, he was only 19, 20 at that stage. He was signed with the Warriors. Raymond was only young, and but we had a good side. Danny Champion was part of that, so rest in peace, poor Danny. Went to the funeral the other day, and mate, he just played above his weight in gold. He was just so tough for, a front row that wasn't even 90 kgs in the end
out,
of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
When he started off there, I think he was only about 83 kgs. So when he first went into the front row, but we had a good side, and to take on France and compete with them. And I think it was basically just one mistake that cost us a drop ball and our 20. They capitalised on it and scored and kicked the goal, and that was pretty well it. Up till then, we were in front, or we were in front at half time, and it was close to being a draw at that stage when they scored that last try, and it was only made about 5 minutes from the end of the game that they got in front of us and that. So, hey, for the boys, it was great. It was I loved it. It was amazing.
Fair enough too. Yeah, pretty cool taking on a national side.
Yeah,
That doesn't come around every day. That's pretty cool.
No.
That's pretty cool. Throughout the years, you've attended loads of these New Zealand Rugby League elite training camps, in particular the Hopu camps you've talked about. So, what was your role in those camps, and how satisfying was it to see young men come in and developing them, help them on their next stage of their footy journey?
Yeah, well, earlier on with the elite camps, with being the head coach, you're also head selector. Mm-hmm. So we had selectors with us. So my role more was to sit back and watch them for 3 or 4 days. The skills we had coaches up there that New Zealand Rugby League were upskilling as well, which was great. Coaches, managers, and trainers, mm-hmm. and referees. So, mate, the concept of the whole thing was just outstanding.
Okay.
Like I say, I take my hat off to them. I just loved that part of seeing everyone grow. So you had the kids, the boys, getting the high performance programs from kids from throughout New Zealand. Yeah. We were getting the best coaches there, and they were teaching the kids, and so they were learning. Same with the managers and the trainers and the referees. So. It was great. So my role was really to watch the boys, and I, by that stage, had a list of players that we were targeting or had identified that we wanted to look at. And so my job was to basically watch them and see what they did, and how they coped under the whole pressure of it all. And then even to the stage where some of the boxes that I expected the kids to tick off was likes of when it was time to have their meals, and when they were in the kitchen and all that area. The people that actually picked their plates up and took them back away and come back and wipe the tables over that didn't have to be asked to do it. Mm-hmm. Those sort of things I watched. And that gave me a tick.
Right.
Or gave them a tick.
Okay.
And that was an extra box that they got ticked in. And so sometimes when it come down, if there was 2 boys for one position, that tick in that box was the difference between whether, because they had the same amount of ability, they would have, fitness-wise and skill level, they wouldn't have been there if they weren't up to it. So, and we had all the testing. So we knew what the testing was. They had all the beep testing and the agility stuff, and all that side of it was there. So for me, that was a great area that I enjoyed, just sitting back and watching them.
Nice.
And then, picking a side from there. And then, the hardest part was you had a game plan that I wanted to do. So then it was having players that would actually be part of that game plan. Okay.
Nice, man. Nice. So that also led to you becoming a scout for a few NRL clubs. So the Sharks, the Parramatta Eels, and the Canterbury Bulldogs. So how did you get involved with that side of things? And what is it you look for in young talent, for potential NRL players of the future? I mean, I guess you just touched on some of that sort of thing, but like you say, part of it's their character. But skill-wise, what is it that NRL clubs are looking for?
Yeah, well, when you get to that level, they can all play footy. Okay. So, like I said, it's more off the field, really. You've got to be better off the field now than you are on it, and you've got to be pretty good on it. So, education was a big plus for me. Okay. So, seeing how the kids are going at school, that helped a lot. But testing was a big one as well. And you can play football, so if they're great off the field, that's the big plus for me. So I was lucky, I got to go to Cronulla, and I was at that stage. I was president at Halswell, and part of our 5-year plan was to try and get in with an NRL club. And so we, through a friend that I had over there, was a fella called Craig Wilson. He ended up playing 150 NRL games for different clubs and that. Well, he was part of the high performance at Cronulla.
Okay.
And so I got to get over there, and he actually got me to have a meeting with Ricky. Ricky was, at that stage, he was the Australian head coach, and he's also Cronulla's coach. So I rock up over there to go to a camp for them, and Pod, as he's called, Craig, said to me, I've got you a meeting with Sticky or Ricky. You got 15 minutes to have a chat to him.
Okay.
And I went, holy shit. So I said, okay then. So I rocked up and I went into his coaching room, and I walk in his room, and mate, you wouldn't believe it. He's got these 3 photos on the wall of him coaching the Australian side. So it's the team photo.
Right.
And mate, it's like 2 meters square. Wow. These 3 photos up on the wall,
Huge.
like the 3 years that he'd coached, well, the 3 different teams that he'd coached the Aussie side. And so I walk in there and I go, holy shit.
I'm out of my depth here.
Yeah. So I thought, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to back myself.
Yep.
And I'm going to sell my passion for rugby league and Halswell and Canterbury and basically at that stage Halswell, we'd had Aaron was there and Fidu Tawa and
nice.
So we had some players there that Ricky knew.
Okay. And
that could really help. So I had the 15-minute meeting with Ricky.
Yep.
And basically I walked out there with a deal for the league, Halswell League Club.
Yep.
To do a program under Cronulla Sharks with Ricky.
Awesome. And
Ricky was going to come over, and him and at that stage Joey Grimer was the head of recruitment then for them, and he's now looking after the Papua New Guinean side at the moment now that they've got into the NRL. So they come over and mate, they did a luncheon for us for the club.
Yep.
And Ricky was amazing. Yeah. So it sort of went from there, really.
Amazing.
So what happens, and the hardest part was, I know I've been with 2 or 3 NRL clubs, but when the coaching staff get the sack, they all go and they bring someone else in. So then they bring all theirs in. So, to be able to be involved with, and mainly I've been lucky because with Craig, we had Cronulla. He was at Cronulla then, and then he went to Para. Mm-hmm. So because of basic, I suppose, the respect that I've earned through him and the players that I've identified and given to him, are at standard that he wanted NRL players. I was probably lucky because I told him about Jordan Ricky and I told him about Griffin Neems. So
not bad.
Not bad. We were sort of lucky really.
Okay.
And then New Brown, he went to Cronulla.
Yep.
After having a trial at Halswell, they had a camp at Halswell and I asked him to come along. So New come along, he got signed from that camp. And the next one that got signed that come to the trial at Halswell was Jermaine Stowers, which is now Jermaine Estarco. So, and Jermaine was one of the best young kids coming through.
He's a pretty amazing player.
I'll tell you a wee story about him. Okay. He come to the trial, and so he was only 15, and I was coaching New Zealand 16 side that age, that year, and he was playing rugby for Shirley Boys. He was in their first 15, and I said to Jermaine, mate, can you sign up? Because at that stage he was at Aranui. Okay. I said, mate, can you sign up at Aranui and just play one game for them? Okay. Because he was playing the rugby at that stage. And I said, mate, all I've got to do is come along. If you're registered with Aranui and you play a game for them and I come and watch you, then I can pick you for the... Right. I was being a wee bit
sneaky.
Sneaky or greedy. because I knew he was the best kid running around in Canterbury.
Right.
And I said, mate, if you play a game of rugby league in Canterbury in a competition, then I can pick you for the New Zealand 16 side at that stage. Right. And that's what I wanted to do. Because, mate, he was just class act.
Right.
But he was playing first 15 rugby, so he didn't play a game for Aranui, so I couldn't pick him.
Okay.
So I was gutted with that side of it. But then I said to him afterwards, I said, mate, Cronulla scouts are coming over and we're having a camp at Halswell, and they're going to have a trial.
Okay.
You know, if you turn up, I'll get you a game.
Right.
I'll get you a trial. So to his credit, mate, he turned up.
Okay.
And so he played in the 16. They had a 16s and 18s trial. So he played in the 16s trial, and so we played in the backfield where the new fields are, and over the back fence is new houses there.
Okay.
Well, he kicked off at halfway,
yeah,
and he only took 2 steps and kicked off. Well, mate, he kicked the ball over the goalposts on the full and kicked it over the fence into someone's house.
Oh, my God.
Just from the kickoff.
That's unreal.
He'd only taken 2 steps.
Oh, man.
I went, holy shit. So at that stage, James Shepherd was the recruitment fella at Cronulla. And after about 10 minutes, he called Jermaine off the field.
Okay.
And he walked off the field with his head down, you know. And so James went over and talked to him, and he was pretty down. And he said, Jermaine, he said, will you stay for the next trial, for the 18s trial? He said, because you're too good for this grade.
Oh, really?
He was just so gifted, mate.
Far out.
And so he sort of picked his head up and had a smile. And he said, yeah, I'll stay.
Cool.
So he played in the 18s trial, and he was only, like that stage, he was only still 15.
Far out.
And played in the 18s trial, mate, killed it in the 18s trial. And the next day, he was basically signed, and he was on a plane over there to show them round Cronulla and sign them up.
Far out.
Yeah.
So you're the man behind Jermaine Asako
no, not really. No.
An NRL star.
I'm not taking the credit for him. He was just a gifted footballer.
Pulled him out of rugby union. You saved him.
Well, he was diehard leaguey. He was always played league, you know.
Okay.
But because he was at Shirley Boys High, and you know he was such a good footballer, they wanted to play rugby in first 15, which was fine. But I needed to get him back in. I'd have loved him. He'd have been the first kid I would have picked in the 15s, you know, like that year that he was there. And there was another player that was the best kid that went to the national, to the camp, and he was only 15, was Asaya Papaliki.
Oh, you're kidding. I always knew he was special when he come through the Warriors. You know, he was unreal.
Well, he was 15, and the first day I met him, we did the testing for them. He was stronger than all the 18-year-olds.
Far out.
He was just amazing. He did a bench press, and they did. I think they started off at 80, and like at that stage, some of the 18-year-olds couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, he pumped off like about 15 or 20. Just went boom, boom, boom. I went, holy shit, mate! You're the strongest 15-year-old I've ever seen, and I knew, I said, you'll be the first kid I pick.
Yep.
Well, mate, you wouldn't believe it. He went back to school, played first 15 rugby, and broke his ankle.
Oh, you're kidding.
I couldn't pick him.
Oh, mate, stay away from that game.
Yeah. So when he made the World Cup side, his mum and dad went on tour with Frank, come over and I was on the tour with them.
Amazing.
And so I got to meet his mum and dad, and I said, mate, you wouldn't believe he was going to be the first kid I picked in the 16 side.
Amazing.
But I couldn't pick him because at that stage he'd broken his ankle.
Crazy. Well, I was lucky I got to meet him when he came down with the Kiwis, and I spoke to the Kiwis as a guest speaker, and he got up and presented me with a cap and a shirt from the Kiwis side, and got a photo with what was He was such a nice fella, you know, such a nice guy.
Yeah.
So he's off to Penrith in 2025. What a great signing for Penrith.
Unbelievable signing. Yeah,
Unreal.
They'll be laughing. He'll just go to another level there now.
I think going to a side that's, you know, a very successful side, he's just going to blossom. You know, with Fisher Harris leaving, I guess he's got that opportunity to go into that middle role and just do what he does.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But no, from that national elite camp that New Zealand Rugby League set up, the kids that come out of there, like even Stacey and all them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's been amazing, mate.
So cool.
Yeah.
Now, a little change tack here. You helped train one of my previous guests, Gary Endacott. You know, we all love Gary, to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. You know, like the first person, I believe, with cerebral palsy to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Like, that's unbelievable. What was your role in making this happen?
Oh, Gary, mate, he's a legend.
He's a legend.
Personally, I don't think he's got a disability. Or if he has, they forgot to tell. I think Frank and Joan forgot to tell Gary.
I think so.
Mate, it was probably the best time that I had. Like, he was working at Canterbury Rugby League, and he was part of looking after all the clubs, and he did an outstanding job. But oh, mate, his will to win it's scary. To be honest, if I was going to war, he'd be the first person I'd pick to be on the side with me. I wouldn't want him to be against me.
No.
The two stories from when we trained, and I didn't end up going with him. He wanted me to go with him.
Yeah.
I wished I had have.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I didn't, because if I'd have gone with him, he wouldn't have made it to the top, because I wouldn't have got up there, mate. He's just so stubborn and determined, and, mate, nothing will beat him.
Yeah.
So I knew he was always going to do it, but I would have thrown the flag out, the white flag, and I would have stopped him from going. But two stories from that, from when we trained. Yeah. So in our lunch break at Canterbury League, we would run around Hagley Park.
Right.
So we'd go down there. We'd meet at where used to be the old sale yards.
Yes.
And so we'd start there. We'd run down to the hospital.
Yep.
Then we'd go down to Nancy's Corner.
Yep.
And then come back and finish back at the car at the old sale yards there.
Okay.
So 45 minutes was what Gary could do it in.
Okay.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
Well, from then, typical Gary.
Got to beat it.
We've got to beat it.
Yeah.
Every time, mate, if we didn't beat it, he was dirty. And like 6 pairs of running shoes later.
Yeah.
The week before he went to go to Kilimanjaro, he said, well, stop. I've got to stop all my exercise a week out, so my muscles and that are all good.
Yep. So
the week before, he said, right, I'm going to break the record that I got. So same trip.
Yep.
Started at the sale yards, down to the hospital, down to Nancy's Corner, and back to sale yards. 33 minutes he did it in.
That's pretty quick.
Boy, with cerebral palsy. So that's why I'm saying he hasn't got a disability, mate. So that was, his just training ethic was just unbelievable. And then the last story I don't really want to tell, but we always used to do a little bit of sprinting. We'd always sprint, right? So we'd always do 100 metres.
Yeah.
On the number 1 field at Rugby League Park.
Right.
I would start on the 100 metre at the goalpost.
Yep.
And, mate, like, I played in the halves, and I was fit when I was a kid. Used to go to all the picnics and was pretty quick and would win the 100 metres. So
right.
I always had a bit of speed with me. Well, Gary would start on the 80 metres.
Okay.
All right, 80 metre line. So I'd only give him 20 metres head start.
Right.
Not once, and mate, I didn't ever not try. Not once did I ever beat him over the 100 metres.
You're kidding?
No.
That's amazing.
Oh, mate, he was a stubborn little shit.
And I think he told me when he was training like on his own, he couldn't pull up because he was going so hard, go through fences and all sorts. Like, just a madman.
Yeah, he was. We'd because the number 2 field had around, there was 3 sides there, and we had the hill.
Yeah.
And so it was a grass verge. So what he wanted to do was run up the top. So start at the bottom of the fence on number 2 field. We'd go up to the top, and then he'd run along 20 or 30 metres, and then he'd run down the hill.
Okay.
And mate, silly Gary, by the time he got to the bottom, he was 100 miles an hour but couldn't stop. So he'd hit the fence, and then he'd just flip straight over it. So I said to Gary, mate, we've got to stop doing this, mate. You're going to end up hurting yourself. So, but not once over 100 metres, with only giving him 20 metres.
Amazing.
He always would start on the 80 and I'd be on the 100, and I never beat him once. At all the times. And every week we would do it.
Yeah.
And it's not a story that I really like telling, but that's why I don't think Frank and Joan actually told him that he had cerebral palsy, because, mate, he's just so determined.
Such an inspiration, man.
Yes. Yep.
Such a great bloke.
Yeah.
He just gives me shit every time I see him. I love it, eh?
Yeah.
He's a smart ass. I love it.
No, he's a great man.
Oh,
amazing.
Mate. One of my favourite stories when I had him here was the Mount Kilimanjaro thing. It's just the things he went through.
Oh, should have died.
It's just if you haven't seen the story, we've actually made a short of it and put it on YouTube yesterday, just because it's so incredible.
Oh yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, look it up.
Because people died doing what he did. Normal fit people had died going up there.
And he's gets dragged down on a stretcher and he's crawling on his hands and knees,
get
going
to the top,
up, just bleeding out his nose.
Yeah, crazy. Bleeding nose is the whole scenario of it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Right. Now, so along with your very long list of rugby league accolades, you've won a fair few awards as well. So you've had the Sports Canterbury Outstanding Winter Sports Administrator 1998, Sport Canterbury Outstanding Exponent of Fair Play Sport 1997, the Canterbury Rugby League Club President of the Year 2010, and you're a life member of Halswell Rugby League. You're a life member of Canterbury Rugby League, and just this year you've been made a life member of New Zealand Rugby League. So how does that all feel when you look back and you get all these accolades? It's quite a nice thing.
Oh yeah, I suppose I've got to take my hat off to my wife Trace.
Yeah. And
my 4 kids, Cara and Josh and Steffi and Luke. You got to spend a lot of time away from home, and so they've missed out along the way and had to stay home and look after the farm and the horses and all that sort of it. So I've been lucky to be able to do the job that I've done and the passion, that I've had for rugby league. So, and mum and dad, what they, did for me coming right through. I was just lucky at, when I worked at Canterbury League, the people we had around us, like all the committees and all that, the efforts that they put in for us, and like even Mike Godney and his sister Maria Godney Watts, when I was doing my the coaching development side of it, the effort that she put in, with her job to help us, get programs off the ground and just to be able to get funding and things like that. Like, she was amazing. She sort of really kept, my program as far as the coaching development program of Canterbury Rugby League going. So I take my hat off to, to the likes of, Maria. She did an amazing job for us, and, all the people on the boards and the people I worked with, at Canterbury League, they, Rochelle's still there, and Carol, and, Shirley Luke, she passed away this year. Yep. The job that she did, and, Jimmy Hewitt, Gavin Tavendale, we just had some, even Perky and, all the people that were on the JAC for us, we just had some really good people that supported me and, went out of their way to, to get the things done that needed to be done, so we could keep going and just getting the results. And so, mate, I was pretty lucky to be honest. The people around me have probably other people, and even back at Halswell, all the volunteers, the men and the women and the kids that have done all that. So I've really only got these awards because of those people, really. They probably deserve them, these awards, more than I do. But hey, it's great to to be a part of it, and to think that there's been some success along the way, and you know, you can see some young kids, you know, you've turned their lives around. Some have been a wee bit wayward, and you've been able to help them, you know, whether it's, you know, stop them from getting jail or drugs and alcohol, and actually become good people, and actually, you know, the ability of them wanting to be, you know, good rugby league people and good people in life in general, really. So, you know, that's where I see myself, you know, as it, you know, it's been great, really.
Mate, I think you thoroughly deserve every accolade you get, and as a very passionate rugby league, you know, fan, I love the history, I love everything. It's, you know, it's just a big thank you from me, and for someone who's come from the Whitaker but moved to Christchurch, made it my home, and I see the passion for Canterbury, and I feel that passion for Canterbury now, and to you know, to meet guys like you, hear your stories, and just realise how much you've put in to Canterbury, but also New Zealand Rugby League. I just want to say a massive thank you, and it's pretty incredible.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. And hey, it's mate, what you've done, you know, just with the amount of members you've got and all the podcasts and the people you got on board. And mate, I think you know, there's that many people are passionate about rugby league, and you know, they can all at the moment see, you know, I think light at the end of the tunnel, really. So we just got to hope now that hey, if we can get an NRL side. I think the world's our oysters here in the South Island, you know, for the whole of the South Island.
Yeah.
And even, you know, the likes of Wellington and that as well, mate, you know. So it'll be the best thing that could ever happen for Christchurch and for rugby league and schools in general, if we could actually get that happening, you know, and clubs, you know, especially clubs. So it's pretty cool.
If we all pull together, you know, everyone doing their little bits, hopefully one day we can see that. It'll just be so cool.
Oh yeah, I can see Frank selling it, mate.
Yeah.
If anyone can get it across the line for us, Frank Endacott.
Good old happy Frank.
Yeah.
Right, man. I want to finish with a few fun questions I ask everyone. So, what's the NRL team you support?
Well, at this stage, it's probably you know, who I'm sort of scouting for. With Aaron at the Warriors, I always, you know, have followed the Warriors.
Yep.
And you know, I loved working with Cronulla and Para, like they're great clubs, and now just at the moment doing a bit with the Bulldogs. Okay. So I just love all the clubs, you know, just to be part of rugby league. Like the NRL's, I think, one of the best competitions in the world, mate. So I just love watching rugby league at that level, you know, state of origin and Kiwis, you know, like, Steve Kearney and that, what he done with the Kiwis when I was coming through with, you know, the 16s and 18s. You know, he was a big help to us, and you know, made the, you know, really made our 16s feel part of it with the senior Kiwis, which was amazing. You know. Yeah, mate. We'll tell you just one story. We did have a sad time the last year I coached. Okay. The 16s. We went up to Whangarei.
Yeah.
And we paid curtain raiser the Kiwis up there, and mate, it was amazing time. Like I said, what Steve Kearney and that did for these young boys. But mate, you wouldn't believe it. We had 3 days in camp. Yeah. And the captain of this side was Rory Ferguson. Now he's playing in Brisbane at the moment. He's playing Queensland Cup, but he was from Otago. Okay. And great young kid from down there. So you know, an Otago boy got to captain our 16s. Wow. We went to Whangarei. We had 3 days in camp, you know, and mate, the boys, geez, they trained good in that 3 days. And I said to the team, to my coaching staff at that stage, I said, mate, you know, like I couldn't have asked for a way the boys bonded and the coaching staff, and you know how well they'd done. And so I said, tonight I want them to have a good night's sleep because we're playing tomorrow. And the boys had all been given their jerseys from the Kiwis. And so I said, mate, at 8 o'clock, I said to me trainer at that stage, was Greg Davis from up north. I said, mate, can you take all their phones off them? I said, I want them to have an early night's sleep. Yep. I said, take the phones off them and give back to them in the morning, you know. So we did all that. And so, mate, the night went. 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I get a knock on my door from a manager. She said, "Mate, all the parents are outside." And I'm going, "Oh," I said, what's happened? She said, "Oh, one of our players from the year before that made the New Zealand 16s had passed away."
Oh, wow.
I went, "Oh, holy shit." So we went out. New Zealand Rugby League were there, and all the boys and the parents had talked to the boys. And so we had a boy the year before, and his name was Luke Tippany.
Yeah.
And he had signed with the Warriors.
Okay.
And mate, what a great kid. This is one of the things that come from, he'd had a hard upbringing, but he turned his life around, and mate, what a great attitude.
Yeah.
Great mana. Led the haka the year before with passion and everything about him, mate. And he was one of the kids that, you know, would pick his plate up and wipe the table and all that. And from that, what he did then, that was when I thought, I want you to lead my haka. And he was just great. Well, mate, you wouldn't believe it. He'd signed with the Warriors on a full-time contract. He was training his ass off, and he was going good. He was at home watching a movie, and one of his mates had a phone call and said, "Mate, can you come pick me up? I'm at a party."
Yeah.
It's got out of hand. They're fighting. I've got to get out of here.
Okay.
Luke drives there. He gets there, and when he arrives there, there's this all-in brawl, and his mate's getting beat up. He goes over to try and help him and get him out of the situation. And mate, Luke got bottled with a broken glass and died at the scene.
Unbelievable. So
basically, all the boys in my team knew him because from the tournaments and from the camps, elite camps, Luke was there. So they all knew him, and mate, the boys were just devastated. So New Zealand Rugby League and the Kiwis and Steve and that, you know, they got round the boys and tried to help him out and everything. So and Luke had passed away, and so that was pretty sad time. So the boys got through the game. We played Tonga and beat them, but the last 10 minutes, our boys they were done. They were spent. Like, we were giving them a wee bit of a touch up, to be honest. But the last 10 minutes, they scored a couple of 2 or 3 late tries and made it quite close. But after the game, and after the Kiwis had because we played curtain raiser the Kiwis, Stephen come in and talked to all the boys, and then he brought the boys into the Kiwis changing sheds, and like they were eating pizzas, and he got the boys to eat the pizzas with the first grade side and that, mate, and it was pretty amazing time. And so for the next 6 months, all my boys, I rang them and their parents to just to make sure, because most of those boys at that stage were still at high school and they were doing exams and everything, so just really to make sure that they were half okay and coping with it. So that was a pretty sad time for all those boys and our coaching staff, because the same coaching staff had coached Luke the year before, and so it was a real emotional, sad time. And it wasn't until that next year, so that was the last game I actually coached a New Zealand side then. Because the next year I had to reapply. I'd had my 2 years and had to reapply, and it wasn't until I was doing my interview and talking about the year before and what happened that I actually realised, how much it had actually affected with being the coach and not, because he was such a great kid and he'd turned his life around and he was going places, and so it was. But mate, just to see all those kids and to be part of them was pretty amazing, really. So and the boys the boys from the next year, we had a spare jersey, so all the boys signed it.
Yeah.
And they put it on his coffin.
Nice.
So it was pretty amazing, sort of a very sad time,
Yeah.
you know, and the whole side of it. But mate, it's pretty amazing to be part of that program. And what Steve Kearney did that day was pretty amazing for those kids. You know, I took my hat off, you know, to what he did and how he tried to make them feel special, and you know, really it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, Steve Kearney's a legend. He's such a good bloke. You know, he's so good. It was awesome to meet him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, he's you know, like he come through those tournaments.
Yeah.
You know, like I was part of those tournaments when Steve was coming through.
Wow.
And, you always knew when he comes through how professional he was, even back in those those days when he was only 14 and 15, coming through with Wellington and that, mate. You know, he was.
Well, he told me that was those camps that made him start going all in, like everything meticulous, professional.
Yeah.
Everything was from those camps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So massive impact you had on his life.
Yeah. No, he was. Yeah. No, it's pretty amazing. So.
Cool.
It's a pretty good game, our game of rugby league, mate.
It's not bad. Okay, so what's your favourite TV show or TV series of all time?
I liked 2.5 Men.
Oh, that's great. The Charlie Sheen era?
It's got to be Charlie.
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to be Charlie. My best two overall big things is Peaky Blinders.
Oh, I love Peaky Blinders. Well played.
And now, mate, Yellowstone.
And I've heard so many good things about it. I haven't actually watched it. But
you got to.
I will.
Get into
I will get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd be about the third or fourth person in the last 5 or 6 podcasts that said Yellowstone. So I'm starting to think I need to watch it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great, mate. Yeah. No,
all right.
really
Okay. Right. Last question, man. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be for Jeff Whittaker?
Or either my wife's or my mum's roast.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the old roast. So
lamb, beef, pork.
Yep. I'd have any.
Any roast is fine.
Yeah, any roast.
Mixed grill for you.
Yeah. No, I love all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, no, it's all. It's
beautiful.
Love the old. I've been pretty spoilt with, you know, the ladies that can.
Yeah.
Do the cooking.
Like a nice little apple crumble for dessert, bit of custard, bit of ice cream.
Yeah, the old Dicky steak puddings is.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Tracy makes a pretty good.
Wicked.
Sticky dake. It's pretty good. So, yeah, no, it's real good. So.
Cool, man. Well, I just want to again thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Absolute treat to have you on, man, and hear all the great stories and players you've helped develop. Like I had no idea you'd developed some of the some of the biggest names we've seen in the Kiwi jerseys in recent times. So yeah, it's bloody fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone out there for watching, out there on YouTube, listening on Spotify. This has been the one and only Jeff Whittaker. I've been your host, Dave. We've been back in the day, and we'll see you next time for Kickoff.
Merry Christmas.
Full time.